Welcome back. Our next speaker, Engineer Wael Al Mohati, gas industries expert at Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, OAPEC. Speaking on today's topic, hydrogen in the Arab countries, success factors and challenges. Over to you, Wael.
Thanks so much, Mr. Melvin. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first to thank the organizer of this event, the White Paper Summit, for their kind invitation to OAPEC to share some insights on the success factor and the challenges to develop a hydrogen economy in the Arab countries. Please allow me also to introduce my organization, OAPEC. OAPEC is the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, a regional intergovernmental organization established in 1968 in the state of Kuwait. OAPEC members are 11, all of them are Arab countries, and 5 members in OAPEC are also OPEC members. The main objective of my organization, OAPEC, is to enhance the cooperation among its members in various forms of economic activity in the petroleum industry. Now, I would like to start my presentation with you, as I mentioned, about hydrogen development in the Arab countries, but I would like to place 2 questions in advance that I hope to be answered at the end of my presentation. The first one, what are the success factors to develop a hydrogen economy in the Arab countries? And the second question is, are we able to over the challenges facing the development of the hydrogen economy in the region? I will cover the topic through 3 main parts. In the first part, we will provide some figures about the hydrogen value chain according to the most recent data available. And the second part, we will speak about success factor and the challenges to develop hydrogen economy in the Arab countries. And the last part, we will speak more about the current hydrogen export and the production plans in the Arab region. Like any commodity, hydrogen has its own value chain that is composed of 3 main components. The first part is the production side, which is the production component of the value chain. As we know, of course, hydrogen can be produced from fossil fuels, which we call gray hydrogen. And if we apply CCUS, it will be like a blue hydrogen, since the emissions, the CO2 emissions can be reduced by over 90%. On the other side, we have the green hydrogen that can be produced through the electrolysis of water with the help of renewable energy sources. The second part of the value chain is storage and transport. Hydrogen can be stored and transported in its gaseous form, compressed gas, or even to be liquefied to minus 253 degrees to be a liquefied hydrogen. And the last part of the value chain is the end user fabrication of hydrogen, in which hydrogen can be used as a fuel for power generation, for heat generation, also can be used as a fuel in fuel cell electrical vehicles, and also the main use of hydrogen nowadays, which is a feedstock for the industrial sector. I will focus on my presentations on the production part of the hydrogen value chain to highlight the significance of the Arab region. Today's hydrogen production is really huge. We are speaking today about 72 to 75 million tons on an annual basis, according to the most recent data from International Energy Agency. Over 99% of today's hydrogen production comes from fossil fuels, where natural gas is a major contributor of hydrogen production for over 75%. The most important point to be considered also that the current infrastructure for hydrogen is really very limited in a certain number of countries, like the United States and some European countries. And on the other hand, we still have a limited infrastructure to transport hydrogen. In total, we have a total pipeline length to transport hydrogen of about 4,500 kilometers, which is against the comparison with natural gas of 3 million kilometers in case of natural gas. This is today in 2019. What should be, or what we expect in the longer term by 2050? It's projected that the demand on hydrogen in different sectors, I mentioned, where hydrogen can be used as a fuel in power generation or as a fuel in fuel cell electrical vehicles in the transportation sector. It's projected that the demand of hydrogen could reach about 650 million tons per annum by 2050. What does it mean? It means that the current demand of hydrogen will be increased by 9 times to meet the forecasted demand in 2050. So the question to be asked is, from where we are able to produce such great amount of hydrogen to meet the growing demand? This is actually, in the answer of this question, is the second part of my presentation, in which I present the success factor of the Arab region to be a key producer and even exporter of hydrogen to our nearby markets. Arab region, as we know, has availability of massive gas infrastructure in place, And also we have transcontinental gas export pipelines, which can be exploited as a backbone for the hydrogen transport and export to the nearby markets. Also, Arab region has a unique geographical location with proximity to potential demand centers like Europe and even Asia. Arab countries also have long established economic ties and strategic ties between its national oil companies, NOCs, and the international oil companies, IOCs. And of course, we have the resource which is needed to produce hydrogen. Either if we are speaking about fossil fuels, we have massive natural gas proven reserve, and on the other side, we have renewable energy sources. Looking to the resource of the natural gas, which can be used to produce what we call blue hydrogen, as an example. In fact, in the following event, we can understand that Arab countries provide the most favorable conditions for producing gray hydrogen, and if we even apply CCUS or CCS technology, even Arab region is still very competitive in comparison with other regions. Looking to the right side of my of the slide, we can see that the cost of gray hydrogen in the Arab region is the lowest compared to any other region in the world, about $0.9 per kilogram of hydrogen. And if we apply CCUS to have blue hydrogen, which is also accepted by the international community from an environmental perspective, the cost will increase to about $1.5 per kilogram. So in all cases, we see that Arab region is very competitive in the production of blue hydrogen if we compare it, for example, like Russia or even in the European countries. But we have also to consider that even that we are very competitive regarding the cost of production of blue hydrogen, the cost itself, if you compare it with other fossil fuels like natural gas, it will be very high. We usually provide the cost of hydrogen per kilogram, but if we convert it to a million BTU, just to have a comparison with natural gas, as I mentioned, the cost of hydrogen will be about $9 to $13 per million BTU. We have to consider it if we need to make a hydrogen a competitive commodity to other fossil fuels. The second important resources that we have is the renewable energy sources. And if you look to the following atlas of the world in terms of wind atlas, there are some locations in the Arab countries in which the velocity or the speed, wind speed, is very high, which can reach up to 11 meters per second. And also regarding the solar radiation atlas of the world, again, Arab countries has up to 2,500 kilowatt per square meter of solar radiation, which is among the highest in the world. And also regarding the annual sunshine hours, which is also very important to increase the capacity of the electrolyzers to be used for the production of green hydrogen, we have about 3,900 hours of sunshine. So we can conclude that regarding the renewable energy sources that we have in the Arab region, that it has the optimal solar and wind resources for the green hydrogen production due to expected higher capacity factors of the electrolyzers used for the production of the green hydrogen, and of course, the low cost of electricity generated. Okay, this is regarding the success factors that we have, as I mentioned, regarding infrastructure, regarding the resources, regarding that we are very competitive and the proximity to potential demand center like Europe. What about the challenges? We have challenges, of course, not only in the Arab region, but also globally, because we are speaking about a nascent industry. Regarding feasibility and the economics, we understand that hydrogen projects require high capex, and still the cost of hydrogen as a commodity is high if we compare it to other commodities like natural gas. As I mentioned, the cost of blue hydrogen, even in the Arab region, about $9 to $13 per million BTU. But if we consider the green hydrogen, the cost could reach about $30 per million BTU. This is actually the challenge from economic perspective. Other challenge is the policy and the regulations. Of course, we still need to cover the regulations covering several aspects like commercial, functional, and safety regulation. And of course, governmental policy is crucial to develop the hydrogen economy. Technology itself is also maybe like an obstacle, since we need water in case of green hydrogen. But with continuous R&D, maybe we use directly the salt water without the need to use demineralized water, especially in a water-scarce region like the Arab region. And of course, culture and the capacity building, we need some time that can be solved through training, workshop, research institutes, and R&D programs. In fact, many Arab countries have shown their interest to develop hydrogen economy, but we understand to have what we call a national hydrogen strategy. It's a long process that usually started with R&D program in order to collect all the required information about the technology and develop a knowledge base, followed by the vision, which will clarify the answer for why hydrogen and why now. And the further step is the roadmap, in which it defines the short-term action needed to advance the deployment of hydrogen. And finally, the national hydrogen strategy that identifies a target and assess policies and their coherence with the existing energy policy. I can say that many Arab countries, as I mentioned, have shown their interest to invest in hydrogen, to consider it a key component of the energy system, either locally or even as an exporter of hydrogen. Arab countries, as I mentioned, we can see here about 4 countries have shown general interest in hydrogen, like Algeria, Iraq, Kuwait, Tunisia. Other countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates already are performing the roadmap for hydrogen, and other countries, including Egypt, Oman, Morocco, are already preparing the national hydrogen strategy. So in total, we have about 9 countries that have shown interest to invest in hydrogen. On the other side, since we have to look to our potential customers, or let's say potential markets for the export of hydrogen from the Arab region, many Arab countries have also signed some MOUs and MOCs with potential partners like Germany and Japan. And over the course of 2020-2021, about 5 MOUs and MOCs have been signed between Arab countries like Morocco in 2020, Tunisia in 2020, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. All of them have signed some MOUs with Germany in order to establish what we can call a hydrogen alliance and set up research and investment project on the use of this valuable source with an eye to export hydrogen to this potential market. Also, United Arab Emirates have signed a MOU to jointly consider developing an international hydrogen supply chain with an eye to export the fuel to Japan in 2021. What is the significance, for example, of Germany for us, since we have signed 4 MOUs, as I mentioned, between Morocco, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates? In fact, Germany is expected to be a potential large market of hydrogen because the demand by 2030 is expected to reach about 110 terawatt hour. At that time, Germany will be able to produce a maximum of 14 terawatt hours. This means Germany will have to import hydrogen from outside Germany. That's why if we sign with our potential markets, this will give a win-win situation all that they develop, since we have the resources I mentioned, we have natural gas, we have the renewable energy sources, and on the other side, since Germany will have to import over 80% of its hydrogen need, which will be at that time green hydrogen or low carbon hydrogen, so we can have this sort of strategic partnership. In fact, I can say many Arab countries, as I mentioned, have shown their interest in investment in hydrogen projects, and about 7 countries like Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Morocco, Algeria, all of them have announced projects for producing and even exporting hydrogen to the potential market that I mentioned, like Germany. And in total, according to our study here in Awabic, we have about 18 blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, and the blue ammonia and the green ammonia that are announced in the Arab countries. Of course, all of us know there are some key projects like the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia, which will have about 2 gigawatts of electrolyzers to produce about 650 ton of hydrogen on a daily basis. Another key project will be in Dhafna in Oman, which will have electrolyzers of installed capacity of 250 to 500 megawatts in the first phase. Key project also among the other key projects in the region, including the potential project in United Arab Emirates, which will produce about 200,000 tons of green ammonia annual basis in partnership also with some German companies. There are also other projects announced even in Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco in order to produce both green hydrogen and blue hydrogen. So I can say Arab region or Arab countries are keen to invest in the hydrogen production and the export project, and we have a diversified portfolio including blue hydrogen, blue ammonia, green hydrogen, green ammonia, with potential agreements with the potential market, as I mentioned. not only announced a project, but also some Arab countries have successfully produced and shipped what we can say test cargoes of ammonia. In 2020, Saudi Aramco, with the Institute of Energy Economics in Japan, in partnership with SABIC, successfully produced about 40 tons of blue ammonia, and also successfully captured about 50 tons of CO2 for the production of methanol in a methanol plant in Jubail city, and also for use in the enhanced oil recovery. On the right side of my slide, also ADNOC, the major oil producer, in partnership with Fertigroup, had exported 3 blue ammonia cargoes to 3 Japanese companies over the next past months. So we can say Arab region again is keen to invest in this sector, and in partnership with our clients or our potential market, we can scale up the production of hydrogen. To conclude my presentation today, for hydrogen to be a key component of a global resilient energy system, we need a large-scale hydrogen value chain with large production capacity and adequate storage capacity and functionality. As I mentioned, we expect that the demand of hydrogen will increase up to 9 times the current demand. We expect to reach about 650 by 250. Arab region had optimal, as I mentioned, optimal solar and wind resources for the production of green hydrogen, with expected higher capacity factor for electrolyzers, 70% of the planned project for green hydrogen, green ammonia production. The hydrogen economy is still at early stage of development, but of course, we can overcome the challenges and overcome the market barrier, which will require some actions. And the strategic partnership, in my opinion, it will be a key and crucial to scale up the hydrogen sector in the Arab region. So my key message today is that the Arab region had the potential to be a major producer and the hydrogen exporter. Before I conclude my presentation, I would like also to invite you to visit Awabic website, in which you will find regular updates on the hydrogen sector development in the Arab region and globally through our quarterly reports on LNG and the hydrogen development, and also some technical studies about the role of hydrogen in the energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Wael, for your presentation. Let's go for some questions and answers. Mr. Mirtinda Datta is asking a question. Any thoughts on H2 distribution network?
Any total, sorry?
H2 distribution network.
What is the total length, you mean, of H2 distribution?
Lots of, the distribution network for hydrogen. I mean, is there any thoughts on that? How to distribute maybe the hydrogen throughout the region, maybe,
Okay, up to, as I mentioned, we have now a total length of the hydrogen distribution network globally about 4,500 kilometers, but it's concentrated in a certain number of countries like the United States, China, and Europe. In the Arab region, we don't have a distribution network, but of course, there are many options to distribute hydrogen, including what we call compressed gaseous hydrogen trailers or liquefied hydrogen trailers, which already are a mature technology available in the market. And of course, if we will look in the Arab region at the hydrogen as a key component of the local energy system, we can consider such technology that is, as I mentioned, the mature and available in the market, compressed gaseous hydrogen or liquefied hydrogen trailers. And also we can use the pipelines. It's possible, by the way, to blend hydrogen in the existing natural gas pipelines up to 15% with modest modification to the pipeline to transport and distribute hydrogen. But still, we need to invest more. As I mentioned, 4,000, again, 3 million kilometers in case of natural gas. This means that we still need to invest over the next 3 decades in order to have a mature hydrogen value chain.
Okay, another interesting question. What modifications are needed to convert existing gas pipeline networks to accommodate hydrogen for transportation?
Very good question, indeed. In fact, there are many modifications that is required. If we are speaking about regulations, an example, regulations, if we need to consider hydrogen as a commodity across borders, we need to have the same regulations from one country to another country. We cannot blend the hydrogen with natural gas up to 15% in one country, and the other country has blending to 15%. So first of all, we have to harmonize regulations across borders. Second question to be considered, what type of equipment that are connected to the hydrogen network? For example, home appliances are in Europe are certified to be filled by a blend of hydrogen up to 23%. But maybe in the Arab region, they are not designed to deal with the hydrogen blend more than 1 or 2%. So we have to consider also what are the equipment connected to the network in order to modify them, to have the required revamping, let's say modifications to handle with hydrogen. Another key modification that is needed regarding the industrial sectors that will use hydrogen. If we consider hydrogen as an example to be a fuel for the power generation sector, the gas compressors are not designed to deal with high blend of hydrogen. So, I mean, it will be a case-by-case study. So where you will use hydrogen, how you will modify the existing natural gas network in order to meet the requirements or the need of the connected customers to the network. It's different in home appliances or I mean residential sector, industrial sector, power sector. So it's case-by-case study. You have to do it, and all of this we have to consider, as I mentioned, harmonizing the regulations in order to have the same regulations dealing with the hydrogen blend in the existing network of natural gas if we use it.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
With the oil price at around $70, how to incentivize governments to invest in such infrastructure modification?
Yeah, of course, we know that we are facing a challenge regarding the climate change, and the choice to invest in low carbon energy sources like hydrogen, I think it not become a choice anymore. So we have to invest it. At the beginning, I can say, if we look to the renewable energy sources without governmental support, it will not be a commercial technology today. So we have to consider that hydrogen will not be a commercial industry without governmental support. And I can say, for example, if we look to the European Union as an example, they have a stimulus package about 750 billion euro. About 25% of this package will be allocated to the clean energy technologies. So in order to proceed with any technology, in a nation technology to become commercial, we need at the beginning, at least for the first decade of this technology, a governmental support, which will be very crucial to make this technology commercial. And we have the example of renewable energy sources in which now its cost reduced by over 80%. At the beginning, it was not competitive, but now the cost of production of photovoltaic cells by as an example, has reduced by over 82%, of course, with the help of the governmental support and in partnership with the private sector and, of course, all other stakeholders of the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Suhail, on your presentation and answering all the questions. And inshallah, we'll meet soon in a physical event soon.
I hope that we can meet each other in person in a next event, inshallah, in the near future. And thank you for the questions I have received from our audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
With pleasure.